Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Sorry, I paused there. I saw a little thing that came up and said your microphone's muted. I'm like, come on, it can't be muted. Um, so good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a nice day out there. Happy Veterans Day. We're going to get started here in just a second. Let me turn off my little scroll things. I did want to just start off and say that today I'll be diving more into show and tell rather than slides. I could have put slides together like I normally do for my trainings, but the reality is I wanted to spend as much time as possible in the decks that I'm going to share. I get asked often, how do I find opportunities? I think it's one of the, certainly in the top 3 questions I get asked as long as I've been doing this, right? How do I find opportunities? How do I find opportunities that are in my sweet spot? How do I find opportunities I can win? And there's a lot of ways you can find opportunities. I'm going to talk about one of them today as it relates to Industry Day slides. But yesterday I was showing how you could find opportunities with FPDS. And so you can look at contracts that have already been awarded and they're coming out. And those are called recompetes, right? Because the government has already competed it once, they're recompeting it. And so you could go into FPDS, and USA spending is similar. It's just a different look and feel. But FPDS is where the data is. You can go into SAM. There's opportunities in SAM where you can find it on opportunities that are coming up, opportunities that are here right now and open for bid. And then you can also find awarded contracts in SAM as well. You can go to certain websites that different agencies have, and they have long-range acquisition forecasts on them. So everybody does it a little different. DHS has this one pretty powerful tool that they built that all of their components fall under. So FEMA, Secret Service, Coast Guard, et cetera, they all fall into the Department of Defense, or excuse me, Department of Homeland Security, and their opportunities are in there. If you go to Naval Information Warfare Systems Command, NAVWAR, they've got their own portal. It's this little dinky, I say dinky, it's really powerful. It's dinky because it's so old. But you go there and it's basically like looking at a hard drive to a degree, but that's where they have the forecast. That's where they drop things. It's really, you have to hear about it to get in there. It's not like it's broadcast out there as obviously as SAM or long range acquisition forecast. So anyways, when people ask me, where can I find opportunities? There's many, many places you can find opportunities. And today I just want to talk about one of them. I want to talk about Industry Day slides, and they can be said many different ways, right? Industry Day slides is actually an Industry Day tends to be about one particular opportunity, and there's an Industry Day there to gather industry input and to have a discussion. But Industry Day is like sources sought and RFIs; they're interchangeable, so that expands. Industry Day events sometimes are about, hey, here's what we got going on, and so you'll see one of the examples I'll use today. They do it quarterly. Somebody else does it annually. Another group will do it. They'll do these events every, twice a year. So it really changes depending on which agency you're going after, et cetera. But these Industry Days can even slide up to something called Advanced Planning Brief to Industry. DoD uses this a lot. APBI, Advanced Planning Brief to Industry. Whatever the term, these are just government's way, the federal buyer's way of pushing out to industry. Hey, here's what we need. Here's our challenges. And most importantly, here are some opportunities you might be interested in. One caveat as we go through is that these opportunities are not all the opportunities. These are just some of the opportunities that are in that agency. It's the ones that they want to actually engage the most with industry. So anyways, that's where we're going to dive into in a second. I'll share my screen and we'll start going in. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, founder of Call Plan AI, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market after I got out of the Army as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. It's why I come back over and over again. Really, my training reinforces my skills myself in there. It's process over and over again, right? This idea of gaining knowledge and turning it into a skill and then following it the same way over and over again. That's that process I want you to do. And so today I'll be talking about the process around looking at an Industry Day deck and how do you do something about it afterwards that can potentially lead to a contract win for you, right? That's why we're all doing this kind of stuff. I did want to remind you, if you're not on LinkedIn, make sure you come over to LinkedIn and follow me on LinkedIn, engage with so many other people who attend these trainings, subscribe to my newsletter, the Government Contracting Success newsletter. My profile and the content I share in the newsletter articles that I write, these are designed to help small business government contractors have more success in the federal market. I'm super excited about, and I wish I had a slide here, but I don't at the moment. Super excited about launching today my first stab at wind themes with Voltron. We created a masterclass, wind theme masterclass level 1, meaning there'll be level 2, 3, etc. But this introduction to wind themes and how to use them and how to begin to work them into the AI world that we're in. I'm launching that today, and maybe somebody can grab that and put it into the chat, or I'll do it a little later. But make sure you track on that, because I'd love to sit there and have you take it. Take this masterclass. It's free, and I'd love to see the input, what questions you have, what really resonated out there. But watch my point for saying that is watch LinkedIn. I'll notify you on LinkedIn that it is launched. Okay, let's go ahead and get started in today's training. And I'm going to use Adobe Acrobat. I think I got things lined up. Let me just make sure when I switch screens, it works the way I want it to. Good, it does. I wasn't sure, just in case you're curious, I wasn't sure if when I share my screen, because I'm only sharing this window, was it going to do all 3 tabs? I'm going to cover down an Army example, an Air Force example, and a DHS example. So DHS will be the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services Office. And I like these 3 because they all kind of lay out what they're doing. They lay it out differently, but it's still a similar thing. So I'm going to walk through today's training as I do it. Imagine you're shoulder surfing with me. That's my vision for today's training, is that I want you to feel like you're sitting next to me. We're looking at the same screen, or we're in a conference room together, and we're walking through, and you're like, well, show me what you look for. Okay, this is what I look for. So this training this deck, and let me just make sure it is good to go. Okay. So this deck came out. One of the first things I do is I absolutely go through every single page. This is a really important thing to understand. It is a tactic, and you can choose to follow it or not. There's people who sometimes recommend don't following it. But it's a tactic to browse everything that's right in front of you, so that you find what's relevant to you, both by how you imagine you should find it, and then by the way you recognize it. What I mean by that is you might search for cybersecurity or something. And inside of the deck, as you're going through, you realize, oh, they just keep saying cyberspace or information assurance or something. They're saying it a little differently, but that's still me. Well, if you just search on terms and you go really fast, you're going to miss it. The other reason I do this is because this is how you build a very strong network. People ask me how I build a network. It's because I'm constantly putting stuff out. This deck that I'm showing you now, I got it and was engaging with it for a customer. And the minute I finished with that, I came over to my entire LinkedIn network and said, hey, here's this deck. I don't want you to miss out on it. And that's the third reason you want to kind of go through every slide. It doesn't take you a lot of time, but you become much more aware of what your Army customer is communicating out to industry, and you're able to identify stuff that might be good for Sally or John who are in your network. So for me, I just start coming down, paging down. So I already know this, but I want to go a little slower for you as you start looking at this. I can get a good idea of what these guys are talking about. If you don't understand who this is that's doing this brief, it's the Army Contracting Command, so ACC, Army Contracting Command at APG, the Army Proving Ground. And that APG is a center. So the Army Contracting Command has centers under it, and APG is one of the contracting centers. And under that, you're able to see here, APG has multiple divisions. We have worked with many customers where we've helped them get in the door and talk to the division chiefs inside of there. And the division chiefs are then able to guide our customers through. And so that's a really helpful thing. Well, the way we came up with the idea, besides just knowing we needed to knock on doors, is coming through here. And you'll see this in a minute. The other thing is I can start looking at things like I see, I want to understand the agency. I don't want to just find an opportunity and pursue it. I want to look at this deck and go, well, what's in here that it can teach me and I can learn? This is the research phase of my process that I teach. Anyway, so I'm looking in here. I'm like, okay, I can see this general thing with the divisions, installation, and DCO3, and you'll see that a little farther. And then I can see some of the other stuff they're talking about. So I'm going to start coming down. First thing I see is, hot dog. I got a person. I said step 1 is research. Step 2, and I have a 7-step process, right? I'll try to show it to you later. Otherwise, you can ask me for it. I'll send you the PDF or something. But first step is research, understanding an agency better than they understand themselves, building relationships, and identifying opportunities. Second step of the process is targeting. And targeting is about building a bunch of names, writing down a bunch of names, 100, 200 names that you can follow up with. And so for me, I'm like, look at this. The director of the contracting operations for ACC APG is Michael Gomes. I think that's how you pronounce it. But this is awesome. Now, I'm not going to call him. I mean, unless you have a really good reason, you don't need to call everybody you see. But I am going to follow him. I'm going to go out on LinkedIn. I'm going to go on to the Army Contracting Command's website, et cetera. I want to find out where this person is saying something because he's the head of acquisition for a acquisition shop that I care about. So that's good. Now I'm coming into the small business office. So I already know this deck is broken up into some opportunities. And it starts off a little bit about, hey, here's a heads up on ACC. Here's my second contact. Now this guy, Ken Batts, who's the assistant director of the small business office, he instantly is somebody I will call. Hey, Ken, I just wanted to introduce myself. Can I get on the calendar? Whatever it is, I will also follow him. But he is a liaison between small businesses and the contracting officers, right? And so I do want to be aware of him. This thing here, just so you know, like I'm not trying to go through so fast that you get to the opportunities that you miss the learning. By coming here, I can see on this slide that who does APG support? And so they call them their mission partners. They're you might call them internal customers. So the Army or the Aberdeen Proving Ground Contracting Center for the Army, they have a certain set of internal mission partners, Army mission partners that they have to support. And you can come through here and CCOM, the Garrison Command. And so if you're trying to do work on that base, PEO Soldier is a program executive office focused on the soldier compared to on, aviation or tanks or anything else. And then you come across, right? And you can see these other ones that they're tracking on. This is a good start because if I'm looking at this contracting center, I see, I'm trying to get into PEO. I think this is weapons and something. I can't remember. But like integrated something. And I have done so much about this IEWS. And somebody's going to put in chat, I'm sure. But anyways, I'm able to look and I can go, I do want to go into these guys. This is the right place for me. All right, let me keep coming. Now I'm on more gold, right? I just went from Ken, and the first thing he's showing me in here is his relationship, which also kind of puts me in touch with their relationship. Here, I can see that he's connected with the executive director of APG, right? And I can see where these people are coming together. He reports back up to the Army OSDBU, basically. And you can see that thread, and then you can see how it's connected out to the folks who are at the different commands. But this just gives me an understanding. For most of these people, you're not going to contact, right? You still want to kind of stick with this guy. So now I'm coming through. I'm able to come in here and start learning more about it. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but here I'm looking at a detailed list of mission partners. And so if I'm really trying to get into the Army Depot at Tobyhanna, then I'm like, okay, I'm in the right spot. This software engineering, maybe you never even heard of it before. Right? And I'm like, oh my God, I do software. And that's a software engineering center. That seems like I should start pursuing it. These are the things I try to find from this deck. So here, flipping this back over, taking Ken back in here. He's the head of small business for Army or Aberdeen Proving Ground, right? Now here are 10 people, I think, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I got to sneeze. That's never good on live TV, right? Especially since my back still hurts. If you know that I broke my back, and lately sneezes have come back to hurt me. No big deal. Okay, so here's performance stuff. I don't actually care about any of this stuff. This one is really good. So now I'm coming in, and a couple of things are really helpful in here. Remember, I was talking about all the divisions within Aberdeen Proving Ground, the contracting center, right? Here's the divisions. The second column is the DODAC. That term DODAC, who cares what it stands for? DODAC is a number that basically aligns back to Division D. So let's say Division D here has a DODAC of Whiskey 91, Charlie Romeo Bravo, right? That number, that DODAC number, I can take that over to FPDS, or I can take it to SAM, and now I can be looking at Division D opportunities related to that DODAC that support these customers, PEO Soldier, the headquarters, Department of Army, whatever these acronyms are, right? If that's what I'm looking for, I can see that. I begin to put these together. When I want to reach out to the small business specialist and Carmen, when I reach out to her, I can say, look, I was looking at FPDS and I was looking at some of these things. I know that you're doing DevCom. I want to talk to you. I slid off. Actually, I slid to the wrong person, but you get my point. This idea of coming across, it gives me so much more to learn. Then that's stuff. Okay, so upcoming opportunities, ground rules, who cares? So now I come into some gold about opportunities. How do I find opportunities? What do I start looking at? So in here, I just start seeing what they've got. So Division A, in this particular set of slides, they're talking about where they're going to be out there. So how they're going to engage with industry, some of the opportunities they have. So here's Cyber Division Support Services as an example. I can see in here, and this is a little late to be putting in here, but it's talking about how the contract was coming out on September 8th is when that RFP dropped. I'd be curious if it did drop. And whether the shutdown happened. So that's an interesting one, right? I can look in there and figure that information. Here's an RFP that's on my birthday, May 12th, 2026. But I can look in there and I can start digging in. So now I'm finding opportunities that are in here. Let me start just coming down a little faster. Every division has now, I'm going to start seeing this pattern, right? Every division is going to start having these similar type patterns on opportunities they have in here. And I'm not going to read them all, but like Division C, for example, it's like, holy smokes, they got a lot. Why do they have a lot, right? How long would it take me to just look at every one on every division as I'm coming through? Not that long. And that's the extra value I can bring to somebody in a network. Literally, imagine this for a second. Here it says modular electromagnetic spectrum system. Imagine somebody in the chat during our training says something about electromagnetics. Hi, we do electromagnetics. You're like, you know what? I just saw an opportunity you might be interested in. You would be amazed, probably not, but how much we don't see. There are opportunities that are 100% perfect for you or for me, and we just won't see them. And my rule in opportunities is see something, say something. Okay, so I'm still coming down. I wanted to pause for a second. You start looking in. One of the things I didn't point out earlier, but look at here. I'm adding even more people to my target list. These people I'm trying to track. So this one here is a contracting officer. I start finding these folks who are in there. Technical, analytical, and financial support. I know there's people who do that. Here's a KO. And by the way, KO in the military stands for contracting officer, and the civilian side it's CO. And it's because commanding officer is what we use in DOD. Okay, and again, you start coming through this. You can start seeing where these people are at. You don't always have to reach out directly. Remember, you're trying to sell into the Army. You're not trying to sell into the entire federal government. In this particular case, let's assume the Army is your target customer. So you want to know where they're going. If you can get to their events and engage with them there as well, that becomes pretty good for you. All right, I'm going to keep coming down. You can see this. You can see what's going on with the different opportunities. Sometimes they do things like this. I really like this, where they put in detailed portfolios. So for installation and technology division, this is what we're doing. These are some of the things. This gives me an idea of what to talk to people about. I was just talking to somebody at a Navy conference on 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about how they do underground digging for utility services. If these guys do underground locating services, they might relate to him and be able to help. We actually have a customer who does underground utility locating services. Do they know that installation and technology division is that group? Okay, so I'm coming down. You see some of this stuff. They're communicating how they're approaching stuff. I'm going to pause for a second because I want to switch to the other slide. But here they're just talking about ways they buy. So it's an extra way to get a lot more information. And I'm going to skip the rest. So that was the Army, right? It's one way. And the Army Contracting Command has a pretty good standard across it. And remember, APG is just one. So you can look at many of those. Let's move on to the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. So this is just one command and a major buying command within the Air Force. And in here, right away, I get two things. If you're looking at this, and I changed this deck. Whenever I find decks like this, I always take the org chart and put it on top so I can just see it. It's the most interesting thing. But what I found right away in here is I could begin to see not only the people, which are really helpful. Most of these people I would never talk to. They're all major generals and generals, et cetera, right? At some point, they're too high, but they're not too high for me to follow. So I could follow somebody like, General Lyons here, and I can hear something he says at an event or something. And when I'm meeting downstream, I'm able to reference, hey, I was listening to General Lyons. He was saying such and such. I want to explore that with you. Right? I'm able to tie it together. The other thing is that I'm able to begin to understand the directorates. You see how it says Mission Execution Directorate and Enabling Directorates? And so in here, I can start seeing what those directorates are. You have to do a little research, right? But I can start figuring it out. So coming down, it's a mission brief. Here they're talking about what they're doing, and they're different. I'm calling them components within AFLCM. Again, there's a leadership team. Here's mission execution where they're talking about what they're doing. As I start going through now, remember armament. Let me come back up for 1 second right there. So you start seeing in here what they're doing. And down here, it starts explaining it to me. Armament, combat readiness. I can find out who some of these people are. You see where it says Deputy PEO, Scott Boyd. I would be contacting Scott Boyd. For me, a Deputy PEO and Program Executive Officer, he's in charge. He's together with the PEO. They're in charge of these things. He's really high up if he's tied together with a lieutenant general. But I don't care. Like the goal is I need to get in there. If you're brand new, let's say you're doing 5 million or less, don't do it, right? Work with a teaming partner or go a lot lower downstream. But if you're 5 million and above and you got some solid chops, then you can reach right out to this person. Or I can find them and begin to find their people downstream. I'm just going to watch my time because I can see it going. By the way, these are 27 slides, 21 slides, and I'm coming through. I'm able to look in here. Who knows if you support Bombers, but I can come in here and go, Bombers has 4 divisions and 44 programs, right? And they've got 22 billion active year portfolio. I mean, that spend that they're doing. I mean, they're clearly spending it, I'm assuming, on Bombers, but, I would go in there. If that's my world, anything to do with Bombers, I would start using this to come down. I'm also able to see where the primary operating locations are. Tinker Air Force Base. There's people out there who you can contact outside and inside the wire. So inside the wire is with the military. Outside the wire are people like the local PTAC. They have a very strong connection with Tinker Air Force Base. And so you can talk to them, learn more, and get introductions in there. Business enterprise. And so this is for us professional services. Where's that stuff happening? Cyber, if you look at Air Force lifecycle management and you try to figure out what's going on with cyber, where can I play? I mean, this is a big deal with the Department of Air Force with 11 billion in active funds around cyber. I want to go learn more about that. And I start by following some of these people and also seeing the primary locations. So let me come down faster. Most of this slide deck is about trying to give you an understanding of who's there. This is how I would find opportunities, though, as I find these people, I go follow back up with them. There's other decks that Air Force has as well. All right, let me back up to the last one because I only got 7 minutes left. This one's 80 slides, right? And this one is pure opportunities. And when I say pure opportunities, I mean with just a dash of, what I call management eyewash, in this case, industry eyewash. But here, DHS, the U.S. Citizens and Immigration Services, this is coming out from their contracting officer every quarter. Right? You can come down. You can find these on SAM, by the way. You don't have to wait for me or other people. You want to learn the process for how to find information. SAM is a great place. When you get into an agency, you can talk to them and say, hey, can you tell me, 2 pages of disclaimer? Make the font smaller. Here, I'm going to bypass this really fast because I'm going to walk you through. Here, Daniel Hubbard, I can see in here, and Scott Stewart. So I've got some points of contact I can reach out to about this component within DHS. And then here's some industry liaison conversation. Here they start breaking down what each of the divisions are and who they're supporting. So similar to what you saw in the Army or Aberdeen Proving Ground, it's the same kind of thing. But look at the bottom, the contracting officer team. Look at all these people, right? These are people, if I'm trying to get into this agency, these are people who I potentially reach out. And I might reach out saying, hey, Angela, I was looking at the deck and I saw you in there and I wanted to do a 15-minute introduction. And she's going to go, what? I was on that deck? But if that's where you're trying to target, if you come in, you can start seeing not just things that were canceled. There's nothing wrong with canceled. But if I look at e-discovery software and anything to do with FOIA or records management or e-discovery, I'm like, oh, let me reach out to this person because maybe it was just canceled for whatever reason. But clearly this contracting officer might be tracking with the program people inside the agency who do this work. So these are just more canceled stuff. Here's an RFI. That's funny. I just said records management, right? It's funny that in here, I don't see that point of contact, but actually I might reach back to this person up here, Josh Riley, or really any of these people. I might reach out to them and say, hey, I see this RFI is coming out. How do I get ahead of it, right? Especially if you're an 8A and you're trying to push it to sole source, you want to get in early. Okay, so now I'm coming into these divisions again. You look at each one of these, see this pattern. This pattern of here's the chief or associate chief for this division. If I wanted to get in there, then this will be the front door for that. I can see who they're supporting. And as I come down, and this is what you'll see throughout the entire deck. And I'll just do one really quick, but you start seeing what's in here, right? It's over $100 million. So it's, when it says contract vehicle open, it's probably because it's going to be its own. And I'm just guessing. I haven't even got to the rest. It is an incumbent in here. So you can see the incumbent here. The completion date's 2/28. For me, if it's over 100 million, that tells me it should have been out the last 6-12 months. Solicitation date, though, it was last month. And if this is something you're interested in, I got a funny feeling this opportunity did not come out the door like they expected in October because of the shutdown, right? And so if it was something I was interested in, I would follow up. I would call these people and say, hey, did you guys have an industry day? Or is there an interested vendors list? You're able to reach out, but at least you've got points of contact. These are opportunities you start beginning to explore, and every one of them has a pretty decent description as you come down. I'm just going to move pretty fast on these. And the place to capture your eyes is the top left, right? Forget about the rest because it's so fast. It all is there. But as I come down, you start seeing what's there. Records operations. If I come down to the next one, here's more contract people. I don't even know that's interesting. RAIO. It's funny how easily I'm distracted. I'm curious on what that is. I don't know what that is. But that'd be an interesting one because I know there's multiple people who do translations on there. Here's workforce stuff. You can see the innovation side. And I'm just throwing words that I see the first word. This one's impending award. But you start coming down. And I'm going to pause here now because you start seeing it. Look here. I can see the contract vehicles, 8A, forms support. If I come in, I can begin to figure out whether these are going to be fits for me. And the thing is, if I pause on this one and I say this is a fit for me, then what I want to do is get that into my sales pipeline so I can track it. I'm going to get it into my sales pipeline. This will be my starting data that will be in there. And then I will build that list of points of contact. So we're really lucky here with, I'm assuming Tracy Jackson. It's funny. It says it's the program office point of contact. I would quickly do a Google check on this person to see if they are. But often you'll see that's the small business specialist. But I've got two folks here. I would instantly be doing a little bit more research and then reaching out and trying to schedule an intro call. So put it into sales pipeline and then reach out or build that list of people you can reach out to talk about the opportunity and then reach out for that meeting. But I just went through, and let me come back to my area here. I just went through really fast and while I'm doing that, let me find this, the 7-step process I had said a second ago. Is it this guy? So maybe when I turn my camera off, you'll see it at the end. But I just went through 3 decks. I have hundreds of those, right? Agencies all around are putting out different things. Some of them put out 5 slides. I've had others that are hundreds of slides. So many slides, like LinkedIn has this limit of 300 or less pages. And I've had decks that are over 300 pages. And so you have so much information in there. I think Navy, NavC does a really good one. And theirs tends to be hundreds of pages. And you're able to look in throughout the Navy and find what's going on. And so what I would encourage you to do, and remember coming out of today's training, is talk to the agency that you want to sell to, right? It doesn't matter who you talk to. Pick up the phone and call some random contracting officers. I'm just trying to stay in touch with your agency and some of the things that come out. I'm absolutely tracking Sam. You're telling them that so they don't tell you to track Sam. I'm just wondering, do you guys do vendor outreach sessions or have areas where you're putting out information in a deck, kind of like an industry or an advanced planning brief to industry. If you ask that, and you ask that of enough people, eventually you'll never miss hearing about opportunities that the government is trying to get sellers like you to hear about. All right, so we're out of time. Just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time, so I am out of here. By the way, happy Veterans Day.